I'll start with a piece here. It was unglazed before being bisque fired, but unglazed. So you can see here's the side that was just straight into the flames, and how it tapered off to the side as the heat went ripping by it. And just a little bit of capture of, you see the speckling there is sort of ash settling in the back side of the pot and getting hot enough that chemically the ash was reduced to its mineral content and started to form a glaze. Now a more extreme version of that would be this pot, which was, again, here it is, head on into the flames, and you can see how it flared off to the side and to the side. So here's an ash buildup, and maybe, I don't know why, maybe this part didn't get hot enough to fuse off into a kind of glaze, but inside, look how rich it became. That's all ash. And some on the bottom you can even see how it's kind of pooled and melted. But that's an unglazed piece where just the ash itself is doing the work. Now in contrast to that is a piece like this. Now technically I can't tell you officially that glaze, but I know it's it's a Shino glaze that Scott has been working with for several firings. And this is sort of what seems to be, for this firing at least, sort of the classic result, where you get this lip formation of green, and then the Shino white, and then a rich green down in here. That's all that was uniform when it was put into the kiln, but that's how it came out. And we know that this is a very heavy reduction firing, means that there were many periods of time when we were holding back on the amount of oxygen going into the kiln. And that's, for this particular glaze, that's when you get this dark, sort of rich green color into this pattern. We've got several bowls like this. A lighter version of that, more than likely in a cooler part of the kiln. So you get that same green and that same rich green here, but it never quite matured here in the bottom. Instead, you got sort of these, what's called carbon trapping in the sides and that white Shino. So same glaze, different part of the kiln, different result. Now this one I can compare with a piece from the last firing. So firing number 3, I would almost certain it's almost exactly the same glaze, but that firing that we did during sesshin was almost all oxidation. There really never was a time when we were trying to hold back on the oxygen being delivered to the fire. It got to the same temperature, but you can see that it came out much, I call it a much calmer piece, where the reduction was not altering the glaze in the same fashion as you just saw. And then here's a lovely little experiment from this firing. You can see a couple things. One, you can see what happens when pieces explode in the kiln, which they do, and you get fragments flying around the kiln and landing on places, and then as the temperatures get hotter, they fuse. So this is now a spoiled piece. But what I like about it is it's a beautiful shape. This is something that Anita was developing, was to take leaves and, from the land around the kiln, and press them onto the clay as it was being rolled, cutting out the shape of the leaf, and then just giving it a gentle curve. And she did a number of these successfully. But this one, again, you can see this is a calm glaze, so it must have been in a cooler part of the kiln. It doesn't have that white turning to green component going on, but just a very satisfying. I wish you could all just sort of hold this in your hand. You know you're not holding a leaf, but we'd love to bring this kind of feeling of natural objects to your table. And we're going to keep experimenting with that.